Was there a particular event or time you recognized that filmmaking was not just a hobby, but it would be your life and your living? So, to answer this question, it would probably be the first ever film class that I took in college, or like the first ever, I guess, sort of film that I worked on, which was a student film at UNO. And just from that experience, working with friends and producing a product that we were, somewhat or proud of, that was when I realized that, hey, this could be something more than just a hobby or an interest. So, is it harder to get started or to keep going? What particular thing did I have to conquer? Well, to me, it's definitely harder to get started because staring at the blank screen, the blank page, what have you, it can be terrifying at times because you don't know like what's going to happen with this project or what direction it's going to go in when you're just starting. But I think the main thing to conquer is just to get a plan going. Like, how are you going to shoot this, or how are you going to gather your crew or your cast? Like, the most important thing is that you got to have a plan. What advice would I give to someone who wanted to start a film career? I think my advice would be just to network, get friends, talk to someone that's been in the industry or knows what they're doing. And a lot of times they'll be able to help you out. Sometimes maybe not, but you just gotta ask. But that's really my advice. What was the most important lesson that I had to learn that has had a positive impact on my film? And how did that lesson happen? So, I can tell you that like the hardest part for my film, at least like the actual filming of it, was actually getting the location and then really dressing it up because we had to do a lot of work on that. And it's just, all I can say is that you want to organize yourself into like doing the hard things first and the easy things later. And that's really what I learned from this production. I am a collaborator. How have I discovered members of my team, and how do I keep the relationship with them strong? Well, for this production, most of the cast and crew members came from the University of New Orleans, which is where I went to college. I think there was only one cast member that like wasn't associated with UNO, but like I said, the school is a great place though to find a cast and crew, and more often than not, like they'll do it either for really, really cheaply or no money at all because they're just starting out. But and as far as keeping a good relationship with them, it's just treat them like friends because they are friends. Like, just treat them like an old friend and, say hi and whatnot from time to time. But just, like I said, the best advice I can give is just treat them like friends, like they would want to be treated. I am here at the Louisiana Film Channel's Movie of the Week. I am here because of my work and how I did it. What are personal attributes that make for a good filmmaker, and what do you do to foster them? So I think that the number one main attribute for a filmmaker to have is just determination. Like, you want to finish this project, but you want to finish it right. And, of course, like hard work and a kind of a team building spirit is also good things to have, but determination is really the first thing and the most important thing that you want to have. And to foster that, I would just say, just don't lose focus. When I wanted to devote my life to making movies, my first decision was New York or Los Angeles. how does where I live influence how and what I make? And how do I think Louisiana currently affects my work and my process? So, first off, I want to say that like my film Pork Chop Night, it didn't, like, the story itself didn't lend itself to be Louisiana specific. It could have been shot anywhere, but with all that being said, Louisiana's definitely had like an impact on my process and like how I go about filming, especially for other projects that are kind of Louisiana specific, you know, whether it be in New Orleans or in the swamps, the bayous, what have you. It does have an influence, and especially with like the practicality of shooting, you know, like maybe it's not the best idea to shoot in the summer here, but you know, sometimes you just have to. And you know, Louisiana definitely has something going for it because there are many filmmakers that do film here. So the state is doing something right. And I'm glad that I'm able to like shoot in this beautiful state because it is a beautiful state. What makes a film great for me? And are there certain qualities that make a film better for me? I think that first and foremost, it would probably be the cinematography because that, like, my background is in camera, and that's going to be like probably the first thing that I'll look for when I'm deciding, hey, is this film like really good or not? And you know, if it has an outstanding cinematography along with like good story, good sound, good, you know, everything else, then that's going to make a great film for me. And you know, sometimes one area might be lacking, or sometimes one, like, it's all like all of the elements are there and they're well presented, but you know, some stick out more than others. But it's really just the cinematography. Like, if that's great, it's going to be great for me. What films have been the most inspiring or influential to me, and why? I think that the first film that comes to my mind is probably Eternal Sunshine with Jim Carrey. And it's because of its cinematography, like the way that they literally use the cinematography to actually tell the story. That is probably the first movie that comes to my mind. But the other one would probably be Boys in the Hood. And that was like really the first kind of film that actually got me into filmmaking. And for that, it was just kind of like the hidden stuff that, you know, when you watch that film, they would put in like certain sound effects, certain, I don't know how to describe it, but like they would put in like these little things that would actually like have a huge impact on the story. And that when I saw those, that kind of got me into it. Are there common qualities in cinema today that I dislike? And is there something that I try to subvert, avoid, or rebel against in my work? So I think the main thing that I would dislike in cinema today would probably be product placement. And it kind of reminds me of that scene from Wayne's World when they like make fun of like the product placements. But that is something that like I definitely tried to avoid. But, you know, with me being like a small indie filmmaker, that's pretty easy to do. I mean, obviously no one's going to ask me to advertise something yet. But yeah, that's something that can bother me. We are all here presumably partially because we love cinema. How did my love for movies get sparked? And what can we, as a community, do to help others discover a similar pleasure? So basically I've loved movies and cinema for literally as long as I can remember. There's hasn't been a time where I haven't loved movies. So I can't really think of any like particular spark, but as far as like what we can do as a community goes, it's just helping out each other. Like, and there are certain like organizations and whatnot that do really help, and I would suggest you to anyone that wants to get into this industry just to look at those different organizations. But it's just helping each other out. Generally speaking, when we want to learn about a film, we talk to the director, but those that make films know how much they are really collaborations. What makes a fruitful collaboration, and what do I do to enhance the collaborative process? All right. Well, I think that the main thing that what makes a good or a fruitful collaboration is that at the end of the project, you're still talking, you're still on good terms, or you're still friends. Like, I think that, and sometimes you'll make new friends and what have you, and that's great too. But I think that that's really what's going to make a very fruitful collaboration. And as far as, what I can do or what I do to accomplish that goal, it would be just to treat people with respect, treat them like they want to be treated, like, don't be mean or what have you. It is said that there are only 6 stories, maybe 12. It's all been done before, and we have seen it all. What do I do to keep it fresh? And is there anything that I can do to subvert the process to keep it original? Basically, all I can say is that, there are going to be common stories, but the main thing is you want to put yourself in it. Like, put your own personal, like, spin on these. And, just write, express yourself. That's really all I can say to, like, avoid these, like, common or, what have you stories. We get noticed because of our successes, but we create them on the backs of our failures. We learn best from the experiences where it doesn't work, yet we still only discuss the success, not the failure. What failures have I been able to learn from, and how did they change me in my process? Well, I've had a bunch of failures, and I'm not, failures aren't anything new to me, but the important thing is that you gotta learn from them. And I can give you, for example, like, as far as this film goes, the big one was just the sound. I mean, sound is always going to be some hard stuff because it's not easily fixable. But all I can say is that, you live and you learn. It all starts with the script. Maybe not, but when do I know a script is ready to shoot? What is my process of getting it there? All right, so as far as the process of writing a script goes, like, you want to write your first draft, and you want to be very comfortable with it. And at that point, that's when I usually go to friends or other writers that I know and try to get feedback from them. And if the feedback is really positive, like, then at that point we'll probably start, like, planning a shoot. But if it's not so positive, then, well, it's basically back to square one. But you want to make the writing process collaborative, because otherwise you'll just be hearing your own voice. Several directors have told me that most of directing is actually casting. Regardless of whether that is true, some actors have it. And sometimes they need something to make it pop. I've spotted that it and captured it. What is it, and how do I find it? So, it is basically, it's just something that I know when I see. I can't tell you, like, any specific signs or whatnot, but it's just, I know it when I see it. And whether it be, in an audition, the actor really, floating off the screen, for lack of a better phrase, When I see that, that's when I know that they have it. Is the film business fair? Why or why not? And how do I make the apparatus work for myself? So is the film business fair? Well, I'm just going to say it's about as fair as any other industry. And I'm not going to pretend to say it's 100% fair, but I think that, it's about as fair as any other industry. And, it's just, and as far as making it work for myself, it's just, you go along with it when you have to. Like, there are some times where you do want to like stand your ground, but for the most part, you just got to go along with it. That's really the advice that I can give. Is it the filmmaker's responsibility to find and develop an audience? And why do I feel that way? Well, I don't think it's necessarily the responsibility of the filmmaker to find his or her audience. I think it's more of the audience will find that filmmaker. Now, obviously, when you make certain projects, sometimes you are going to be like searching for a certain kind of audience. But that doesn't mean that, like you won't find an audience that you weren't expecting. So I think it's really just the audience will find the filmmaker. What role have film festivals played in my life so far? Why are they necessary? And how do I get the most out of them? So I believe that Pork Chop Night has gotten into 2 in-person film festivals. It has gotten on to some online film festivals, but those are very different. As far as the in-person festivals go, those are a real help to me because when I go to them and when I watch the movie with the audience, I can see their reactions. And I'm lucky to say that like Pork Chop Night, every time it's been shown in a theater, it has gotten reactions, and that's really the main thing I'm looking for, because obviously any reaction is a lot better than no reaction. And I'll learn some things about the film because sometimes the audience reaction will surprise me. Like sometimes when I make the film, there are certain parts where I think it's going to be humorous, but when I watch it with an audience, they'll gasp at it, or something that I meant to be serious, like they'll laugh at it. And that's fine. Like, I'm just glad that, they're having a reaction and enjoying the film. Am I a big believer in the importance of social media in many aspects of the film process? Am I on social media and do I use it in my work? Why or why not? So I'm just going to be the first to say I'm not big into social media, and I wish I could give you a good excuse as to why not, but I'm just not. Like, I don't really have an excuse. With that being said, like, I realize that social media, for the most part, will play a big part in film. It's just not my department, so to speak. When I got started, there were 2 screens, the movie screen and the television screen. Now there are also computers, tablets, and phones. Screens are everywhere: the home, the bus stop, the elevator, the taxi cab. As a creator, how does this affect the stories that I tell and how I tell them? So I think that really what this affects is the running time for the films. Like, for example, if you're going to make a short film, especially with the advent of smartphones and whatnot, like it's a really good thing because like most people don't want to stare at their phones for, a feature length film, but they'll do it for like a 3 to 5 minute, maybe 10-minute short film. And I think that like all these different, I guess, views of cinema, I think it's given the short film and the shorter content a real niche. If there is one or more thing I think would make the film industry better, what would it be? I think the main thing is just I wish there were more jobs in it, and I could say that about most industries, but I think that's really the main thing is I wish there was more like stable jobs in the industry. Do filmmakers have any responsibility to culture? And do I feel that being a creative person requires that I give back or tell a particular story? Why or why not? So I think that film plays a big role in culture. It's obviously a big part of culture. And, you know, as a filmmaker, by extension, yeah, you would play a part in it. And I think that filmmakers should have like at least some responsibility, because you don't want to be like putting content out there that teaches people the wrong things or like to do wrong things. And yeah, I mean, you can put some dangerous ideas in people's head if you show like the wrong things. So yeah, I believe that filmmakers do play a part in it. So what inspired the story / film? Like I said, I don't think that any particular one thing inspired it. I think it was several things, but I can say that my first draft was really day and night different from the final draft. And that was really when we started doing the cast rehearsals was when it really started to take a new direction. And, you know, I'm happy with the new direction. Like, I'm happy with how Pork Chop Night turned out. So where did I find my cast? I found my cast. So there were two actors in Pork Chop Night, John Neisler and Elaine Huntington. John Neisler was I guess you would call him the acting professor at UNO. And that's where I met him, through there. And he's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet in your life. But that is where I guess our relationship started. And then Elaine, we actually found, I want to say through Craigslist. It was definitely online, but I want to say Craigslist. And, you know, I think it turned out well with her. And we're still friends, and I still love her. So, you know, like sometimes Craigslist does work out. What is my next project? My next project is a short film called I'm Fine. We shot it last year, so we're currently in post with it. But obviously with the pandemic and whatnot, it's been a very delayed and slow process, but hopefully we'll have something done in the next year or so. All right. Any unique issues encountered, and if so, what was my creative solution? So really the hardest part about the filming of Pork Chop Night was really dressing up the location, because the location was a friend's little apartment, and we had to clean up the room, which was very dirty. Then we had to repaint the room. Then we had to find all of the artwork and props and hang the artwork up. And we even had to pull up a table through a balcony by rope. So it was a lot of work, but we had fun doing it. And, you know, it's just you got to put the work in. That's really all I can say. Anyone that I would like to acknowledge or thank from this project, there's so many people, but I would love to thank every cast and crew member that worked on this. They were the best cast and crew that I could ever ask for, and I will be forever grateful to them. I would like to thank Matthew Schoenberger, who did co-direct this film with me. He just couldn't be here right now. So yeah, many thanks. And lastly, I want to thank Great Red Spot Productions for making this dream come a reality.